there's going to be things you can't control. That's the way life is, and that certainly is the way combat is. But you have to take ownership of everything that you can. Of everything that you can. And I believe that when you take ownership of that, instead of pointing the fingers and blaming the circumstances and blaming bad luck, I think that actually hurts in the long run more than knowing that you're doing your job. And by the way, people will make mistakes in combat too. People will say, hey, they'll send people in the wrong spot. They'll assault the wrong building. You know, you read those chapters in when Leif was with Chris, and Chris or Leif could have easily said, go ahead and engage that. Chris saw somebody with a scoped weapon. Chris saw someone with a scoped weapon, reported the building. Leif ran it up the chain of command, deconflicted. The army said, there's no friendlies in that building. Take the shot. Kill that enemy sniper. And it would have been totally understandable if Leif had said, yes, Chris, there's no friendly in that building. That's an enemy fighter. Shoot him. And it would have been completely understandable if Chris said, roger that, boss, and taken that shot. And if he would have done that, he would have killed an American soldier because there was a problem with the deconfliction. That can happen. Those things can happen. And if you leave it to chance and you shrug your shoulders, those things are much more likely to happen. So, yeah, I think the healthiest thing to do, even though it's painful, is to take ownership. And, I was the senior SEAL in Ramadi. Every operation that we did was mine. Was mine. And that's the way things work. Yeah. You go forward a little bit. You talk about the ultimate form of ownership is what we call preemptive ownership. And this is, one of the problems with extreme ownership is it's looking to the past. Hey, a mistake was made. It was my fault. Well, preemptive ownership is, hey, if a mistake gets made, it is going to be my fault. Therefore, I'm going to implement these things to prevent a mistake from happening as much as we possibly can. Strange thing about your job is a single seat fighter aircraft. What happens in that bird is literally yours. There's no finger pointing to be done. Even down to the maintenance. I mean, you do a walkthrough. I guess someone could make a real bad mistake with some kind of maintenance protocol.
It's hard to, when you're by yourself in a jet, it's really hard to find someone else to blame for anything goes wrong in that jet. So yeah, there's always, like some crazy thing, but I mean, generically speaking, who are you going to blame? And that's 100% true. And everything you just said about that, I mean, that's really what reading that chapter did to me. It's everything. You got to take ownership of everything. I know for me that I wasn't doing that. And I think I had gotten to a place where I was comfortable. I wasn't running around like pointing the finger and blaming people. I hadn't been living my life, or I'm some sort of victim of things going on around me. But when you read that and you think about what that means to you, part of it is for me is recognizing if I need to be able to cross the bridge on that moment. And if there's one good thing that has done for me, it's really hard for me to find another circumstance now and be like, well, that's not really my fault with this as a backdrop, right? Like, this is the ultimate for me. And the benefit of that is I can look around at everything else and be like, hey, dude, this is not going to be that hard. Mm-hmm. Find out what you did wrong and fix it. Look in the future, prevent it from happening. Yeah. It's just what you got to do.
And by the way, I think the only part about Chris that I read was, I think you called him the ultimate Marine or something like that. And you give, more detail in the book, but just a total stud. Just a total stud. Just outstanding across the board. And doing his job. And loving doing his job, by the way. Which is, it's something, you'll hear the phrase like, oh, he died doing what he loved, right? You hear that? It kind of sounds like what you call a cliche or a platitude. But man, I take a lot of comfort in that fact that, I just was with, up at Mikey's grave and like knowing, I mean, I know 100% that Mikey wanted to be doing exactly what he was doing. That's what he wanted to be doing. Mark, same exact thing. Ryan Job, we actually got to hear him say, even though he got shot in the face, even though he was blind, he's like, I want to come back. Because that's exactly what he wanted to be doing. And Chris Leon was the exact same way. You can go look at a picture of him right now on the internet, and you will not see 1 ounce or the slightest indication of any hesitation of any kind whatsoever. That is a United States Marine in combat, supporting his brothers, and that you can see it 100% in his face with not even any indication of any kind of anything other than that. And like you mentioned in the book, the opportunity to share his story and let people know it's an honor to be able to do that. And you did a great job of it in the book. And yeah, as your leaders out there, whatever little tiny excuse you're grasping onto, and look, the Mooj, the enemy fighters, yeah, they're the ones, they're the ones that pulled the trigger. They're the ones that killed Chris, killed Mark, killed Ryan. They're the ones that killed Mikey. Yes, but we have to take ownership of everything that we can, as much as it hurts. And it does apply to everything, and you get here into the real world application, which once again you start off with a quote, and the quote is completely applicable to what we're talking about. The quote that starts off with from one of our clients at Echelon Front is, "How am I supposed to take ownership of something I didn't even do?"